As many roads as there are travelers, up to the mountain peak each man has a path. Some take a winding road to walk upon, some take a road unknown but still carry on.
I wonder if the goal of these ants is to strip off every single leaf and leave this branch completely bare. I guess it all depends on perspective. More than likely, their goal is to fatten up their queen so that she could continue with her egg-laying duties. When I think about ants, I'm always intrigued at how busy they always seem to be. I mean, you never just see an ant relaxing. They are constantly working, biting off leaves, carrying stuff on their backs, feeding their queen, and building these amazing anthills. For such a minute little insect, they sure are overachievers. Maybe we can learn from them as we walk on the pathways to achieving goals in our lives.
We're addressing the minds of today, the young people today who have been going to universities, who have been dropping out of the school system, who have been, they have a sense of life that is a little bit different from just getting trapped in the corporate world or just living for the sake of earning money and social prestige. The young people are asking us questions. What are the goals that I should set for myself? What were the goals that you set for you? They're asking their parents, because they're seeing their parents sad, depressed, broken down, yes. But they might be very successful and affluent. So the young people are asking some questions. What is this leadership you want me to give? Who am I to lead into the future? What am I to lead people into? What are these goals that you want me to set? What is this planning that you want me to do? So they're not opposed to going to school or opposed to getting the degrees or opposed from growing in any way, but they don't want to just be trapped in just the thinking of business and industry, or just into that environment of working and dying in the process. So let's share some advice now. We're giving advice to this generation of bright people, very alert, social media, they're communicating, they're interacting. In our own work, we work with so many young people, and they are asking, yes, we want to plan, but what do you want us to plan for? Yes, we want to be leaders, but leaders of what? You know, they want to lead societies and communities and so on. They don't want to just lead for the sake of wealth, material wealth. So what has been your experience with working with young people, and what advice can you give to the younger people who want to be relevant and important and use their intelligence and creativity in the context of planning and leading and goal setting? Any thoughts? Let's start with you there.
Well, I think there is a misconception about what real leadership is.
Yes.
And many of the leaders that the young people today interface with encounter abusive leadership, oppressive leadership, insecurity and manipulation, and it is dressed up as leadership.
Right.
And so that disillusionment then pushes them back because they really don't want to participate in leading in that way. And as a result, they kind of have moved backwards and starting to look for other things. The millennials are really, through the technology and so, are finding that the people in front of them don't necessarily have to be the only people that they look to for leadership, because they have all of the social media means and TED Talks and all of the things at their fingertips to show them a different kind of leadership and a different path and different goals for themselves. So I think one of the things that I think that I try to do in my own interaction is to maybe go back to basics, the kind of leadership that Jesus taught, because his leadership wasn't about domination and oppression and dictatorial styles and abusive styles, but it was really creating a space for people to blossom and to find themselves and the truth of who they are, and then when they do that, to be able to share it with others. And I think that is where the goals do not have to be bottom line oriented with dollars and cents and targets and pipelines and all of those things. It really, the goals could be about one, being happy, living harmoniously with the people you work with, and through that joy, producing a wonderful product, a wonderful gift, a wonderful life for yourselves. And we see it with the millennials going from large houses to a lot of shows on HDTV and so with small houses. Yes. People they're making different choices. They don't want to be in the corporate world. They decide they will go through the world and work on projects and help wherever they encounter people, ask for a job, work for a few months and move on. So just a different philosophy. But I think at the root of it is disillusionment with the kind of hardline corporate ways that we thought many years ago was the only way to go.
Yeah. So what do we tell, Anna? What do we tell the young people is planning and goal setting and leadership?
I think when you're planning for your life, I think in my experience, you need to figure out what are your values, like what do you value. If you value goodness and kindness and generosity, and you end up in a job that is manipulating others for money, there's no way that you're going to be happy. So I think the first step is to figure out what you value, what is important for your life, what kind of life you want to live. When you see yourself in the future, imagine yourself in the future and what kind of person you are, and then you take a step-by-step plan to get to that point, and along the way make sure that none of your values are being compromised in any way. Correct. Because when you compromise in your values, as rich and successful as you are, you're going to be so unhappy.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things is that I once heard somebody say, listen, our generation, we down here longer, we before. And so those behind, they are looking at us, all right? We are supposed to leave a foundation, leave policies, rules from which they will then follow and move on with. And one of the things that concerns me is that we set goals and they don't materialize. And I stand in front of a classroom and I will talk about something and I will just see these blank faces after. I said, what have we all understand? So we understand, but we're not seeing that taking place for the last how many years?
Right.
And they begin to, and there's a litany of broken promises and issues and rules from corporate society, from the state, from all sorts of institutions, and you realize, and they say, so we don't understand. I mean, we understand it, what you're telling us, but we don't understand why it is. You all make all these rules and plans and it doesn't materialize. We're supposed to do that as well?
Yeah.
And so I think one of the first things we need to do is, as adults, as ones being down here longer, we have got to ensure that when we make the rules, when we design the policies, when we do goal setting, the goals have got to be realistic.
Yeah.
They've got to be achievable. We've got to put the effort into it.
But it has to have a value to it too.
Well, that is we have to add that
valuable goals, meaningful goals.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, that has meaning and purpose. And Judy, you work with people. What's their call? What's they wanting?
So, as you were talking, I was reflecting on two courses that I run. One is called Spirituality and the Spiritual Workplace, and the other is around mindful management. And the young people in those forums come to the same place, which is that the workplace has to be more than just a workplace. Mm-hmm. It has to be a workplace in which I'm able to fulfill my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you look at the trend now in terms of the corporate environment internationally, you find that there is a shift, and there has been a shift over the years from leadership style. So we've moved from the command and control into the one where you're looking for employee engagement and stuff like that. But what you also now finding is companies trying to embrace what they call spirituality in the workplace to meet the needs of fulfilling the purpose of the staff. But how they introduce the spirituality ranges.
Yeah.
So some of it allows the staff to engage within the community.
Right.
All right, and in some instances they actually paid for that community involvement.
Okay.
And so people are able to fulfill their need to give service, because part of your spiritual growth comes through that service.
Yes.
The other thing is, as Anna was saying, that importance of being able for them to identify what their values are is a critical starting point as well, because that is what guides your decision making as to whether I do this or whether I do that. Is it in keeping with my values? So being able to clearly identify your values, also being able to clearly identify that you are not the only power operating in your life. So part of it is also getting them to recognize that they are not fully in control of their lives, that there is something greater than they are that can help them in bringing into being what they want to bring into being. So it's being able to connect them to that source, whatever they define the source of that strength, but acknowledging that there is a source of strength that they can call on to bring into being what they want to bring into being.
Absolutely.
And I think through that passage of source that is greater than I am, the values, the presence, the ability to integrate my spirituality in the workplace rather than being a Jekyll and Hyde, that facilitates them in that passage that we talk about.
Just a couple of days ago, I was sitting with the person who started this home for children who were abandoned at birth. Anna is part of the project where we are working with this woman. And she has, over the years, really helped young people who were abandoned at birth. They are going to school, they are pursuing their degrees and so on. It's beautiful. But this woman is extremely beautiful, very deeply spiritual, and very much a mother.
Yeah.
That's her story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's not a politician.
Yeah.
She's not a corporate leader. She's a mother to these. She has her own family too. But this is what hit me when I sat with this woman just a few days ago. This is a real mother.
Yes.
And she has extended her motherhood
To a wider community.
all these children. She works with about 20 or 30 of them at a time. It's a profound thing, but she's not simplistic, but she's simply a mother. And she's making sure they're eating, they're clothing, they're going to school. It's very, very beautiful. But we're doing, on another hand, what Kerwin was saying. We are giving wrong messages about goals and leadership, just what you all are saying. That we're giving these wrong messages and we're expecting the young people to follow us,
them.
but they're seeing through us.
Yes.
They're seeing through us. They're
They
saying,
want authenticity.
yes. And
Yes.
they're saying, but you're not happy. You want us to do this and you're not happy.
Exactly.
So what is it? We have to give a message to the adults now.
Yes.
That's right.
What do the adults, Susie, what do the adults have to do?
I think just that. We need to be authentic.
Right.
We need to be centered. We need to be truthful. And as Judy was talking about the different ways of leadership, we need to be servant leaders. You know, our greatest leader walked this earth, to me, was Jesus Christ. And what was he? He was the servant. He taught us how to wash each other's feet. Not to be lauded upon, not to be, glorified in front of everybody. He did not come to serve that kind of kingdom. We have a teenage daughter who is right now choosing subjects to go up. And it's a big deal, right? And we sit among other parents and we hear all the parents talking and the teachers are giving advice. And I'm thinking to myself, 14 years old. How is a 14-year-old supposed to know what they're supposed to do for the rest of their life? So all I can say to her is, look at your own talents, your God-given talents. God gave you something different than He gave me. Look at those and see where you are going to use those to serve the kingdom, to serve the greater good, to serve humanity. You are here to bring something into the world that no one else can bring, and you are here to make others benefit from your presence. And to me, that's the only kind of leadership I can teach her to be. Subjects will come. Hey, what? I got my degree at 40, 41, you know. We have this race in our lives where we are, you know, academically driven. It's an addiction. It's an addiction to education, an addiction to health, an addiction to power, an addiction to wealth. We need to just stop and have an addiction to service instead. You know, sometimes I think that's where we need to bring the reality is, what good does it do if I have so much money in my bank account that I can help the debt of a country, and it's all in a bank account serving me, and I have a few ships to go on holiday with. It makes no sense in the world. You know, to me it's just
but
like...
the young people, what you're saying is very beautiful and profound. And the young people are aware of this.
Yes.
And we have to be the leaders and the examples to them. Because they would not trust us, our advice and our guidance.
And Selwyn, you're so
we're
right.
not living it.
Yeah,
It's
and
our responsibility.
it's important to teach them that though, because so many of them, now they will want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Well, you all have led us so wrong, you all have gotten it so wrong in the generations before, that we have a whole group of children, of young teenagers and young adults who are drifting because they don't have any goal. They're not sure where to go, you know, because you've had a bad example and I just don't understand what I'm supposed to do with it, you know. So I think it's so important that these are the next generation, but they need to be taught and mentored into finding a service, finding a way that they can benefit humanity.
It's beautiful, but we have to radiate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They're seeing through us.
They are.
They're seeing that when I work with Anna, I keep telling the group of psychologists that we work with that research has shown that just superficial affirmations are dangerous because it means nothing to the young generation now, just affirmations. We have to live it and we have to example it and we have to model it. And the young people are sensing that and they want to be guided by authentic people. You're right, you said it. We need to have the values. We need to have the values. We need to reflect them. We need to live them. But perhaps the more mature people need to learn too.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
You were saying, Kerwin, they need to understand that there's a responsibility to be authentic.
That is our responsibility as
Exactly.
being the generation ahead of them.
Exactly.
We need to carve out, we need to do these things, we need to be responsible. That's what being adults is, that being responsible.
Correct.
Adult, whatever your spirituality is, whether it be Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, that is what a spiritual person and an adult spiritual person is all about. You have got to be there for the next generation. You have to lay a foundation for the next generation coming behind to take up and keep running and improve upon what you have. So we have a responsibility to ensure that, all right, so we're making mistakes, let's go back in, fix it, and show them we made a mistake. This is how we fix it. Can you help us contribute to properly fix it as well? That's what we need to do.
And I think a critical piece is recognizing that they see and they gain more from what they see you doing than from what you
and
see.
we have to recognize that they are observing and credit them for observing.
24/7.
Yes.
24/7 they're observing.
Well, they're observing, but they are also being educated and informed by the Global University of Social Media. And the TED Talk is speaking about and other things. They are getting information from other
There's so much
now.
competing out there for their attention.
But they're getting the information.
And they
it's
know how to reach.
affecting them.
Yes.
It is influencing them.
Yes.
And we have to be careful as adults in the community, that we reflect the values, we live it.
Correct.
We live it, reflect it, and guide
That's
them
right.
through the
Yeah.
process. Okay, thank you very much.
Sometimes it takes all the strength we can muster to achieve the goals we set for ourselves. Like these little soldiers, obstacles can get in our way. Persistence may be the key, but sometimes it may be best to just let go and let God carry it, and to ask ourselves, do we know the purpose for these anthills that we are building?
Oh,